We will call to order the regular board meeting for the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners. Good morning. My name is Maricel Hernandez. I'm the chair. And with me is Commissioner Cressy.
Present.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of the agenda. Do we have any proposed changes? If not, let us move forward with the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of November 23rd, 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, I would ask that you make that motion.
Sure. I will make the motion to approve. Is there a second?
And Commissioner Cressy seconds.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye. Commissioner Hernandez votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye. Motion
passes. Next is the Executive Director's Report. Mr. Holliday.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioner Cressy. Attended my quarterly meeting of the Multi-State Information and Sharing Analyst Center and the Election Infrastructure Information and Analyst Center. Again, just bringing us up to date on malicious attacks on your domains and really spoke about cybersecurity. On December 7th, I attended a webinar on enhanced voter confidence and to optimize mail ballot delivery and tracking. This was done by Blue Crest Incorporation. I attended my monthly standard board meeting with the EAC. And on tomorrow, the invitation for bid for our ballot printing will be posted in the Sun Times. Pre-bid conference will be December 29th here at our office. Pre-bid meeting as well on that date. Bids are due Wednesday, January the 5th, and it will be awarded at January 11th at our board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Also this morning, as we're on the board meeting, I have the winter conference of the Association of Election Commission Officials of Illinois going on. So once I leave this meeting, I'll go back to my desk to that computer and get back on that conference. With that, that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now we'll hear from our Assistant Executive Director, Sandra Espera.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. I have a brief report. I am meeting with the appropriate parties and preparing for the 2022 hiring plan. I am presently working with IT to have the new HR manager's computers and mobile phone in place for her start date. I have the warehouse staff working towards completing the projects at the warehouse, and I've also assigned additional staff from various departments to assist. And that is all I have for now.
Great, thank you. Thank you. And now we'll hear from Max Bever, our Public Information Director. Max.
Hello, everybody. This is Max Bever. I've got 3 updates. First, we have spent the last few weeks communicating our messages around the remapping process, as well as a possible referendum ballot votes with media, as well as preparing a new podcast and other social media materials to continue to communicate those messages. As people know, it's still a wait and see at this point as City Council continues to negotiate around other additional maps. 2, we're making an advertising spend at the end of this year. Right now, we're signing contracts with local newspapers as well as community newspapers and on social media. So if you see digital ads, that is us. We are saving our spends with those newspapers for before the election in June to remind people to vote within specific communities. And then we are getting a quote from a longtime vendor of the Chicago Public Libraries to freeze dry our historical election books and poll sheets to rid them of all mold. And that is work that we'll undertake in the warehouse likely in early January to hand those records over to Chicago Public Libraries in their special collection. And that is it from communications.
Great, thank you, thank you. We'll proceed now to old business, infrastructure projects, and changes in election administration and voting equipment. Are there any updates on that?
None, Madam Chair.
Okay, and how about electronic poll books?
None there, Madam Chair.
Oh, okay, thank you. Legislation, is there anything new to report? Mr. Lasker?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Commissioner Cressy. At this point, the report is that there are some public hearings being held by the Illinois House and Senate redistricting committees on the judicial subcircuits. They just released a map this week. They're going to be conducting public hearings on that December 16th here in Cook County. The proposal that they're pushing so far would increase the number of the judicial subcircuits in Cook County from 15 to 20. So that would be a great expansion due to the large population growth that they're seeing in the Chicagoland area, keeping in mind it's all of Cook County is covered by these subcircuits, not just Chicago. The judicial subcircuits were first created in 1991, so 30 years ago, and they have not been redistricted since. So this would be the first time I think that that's happening. So word is that they're going to try to have their proposal ready for a vote during the spring session of the both House and Senate, which is from January 4th until April 8th of this year.
Okay.
Legislatively, I can also say that the Chicago City Council did not legislate a ward redistricting map prior to its statutory deadline of December 1st. And on the following day, December 2nd, the Latino caucus of the City Council filed its proposed ordinance along with a petition to present that to the voters by referendum. We've been receiving a lot of questions from the public and from media as to what happens next. And so that is a teaser for my legal report that will come later this meeting. That's all I have for you on legislation today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
With that, we'll proceed to new business, and the first item is a subscription agreement with SOE Software Corporation for online training. Mr. Lasker, would you like to speak about this briefly?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. And also, Opal Walls, our procurement officer, is here, and I invite her. She's done a lot of the work on this project, so if she wants to add anything, please do, Ms. Walls. This is an organization that the board has worked with for several years now in creating online video productions for training. And we are going to be expanding those video trainings again because of COVID to now include, it'll be not only the election judges and polling precinct workers, but also early voting staff, our election day field investigators, and those election administrators who conduct the nursing home voting. Previously, the board had several different contracts with what's known as CITL for these services, but Opal has worked with them to merge all of that into one agreement so that it's just a more administratively efficient for us to get that handled. And so the proposal today is that we have an approval of that draft contract that's been circulated to you, and it's full scope of services is specific to the different projects that were mentioned, general software maintenance and support, but also that includes training for election day poll workers, early voting personnel, nursing home voting, and election field investigators. The total contract value over the 1-year term is $69,043. Similar pricing is set forth because there are some options for renewal for up to 3 more years at very similar pricing. So it's a pretty good looking deal. Staff is happy with CITL's work on these issues on projects, and so that's their request.
Okay. Thank you. Opal, do you have anything to add?
Nothing more to add. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? If not, is there?
Commissioner Cressy, you're muted.
I'm muted and I'm talking away over here. Sorry, Madam. Just to either Opal or Adam, I've looked at their work. It looks very good. And as an educator, just don't let them teach my classes or I will be out of a job. But They look good. Have we gotten any feedback from the election judges who have taken this so far? And I apologize for my dog in the background. Have the election judges or those who have seen the previous work, that they've enjoyed these modules?
I heard some people applauding it back in the pandemic. Of course, you know, in 2020 we were really in the height of the pandemic, and so meeting in large crowded classrooms was just simply not an option. And so I certainly heard judges saying that they were thankful that they could receive some training without having to put themselves at risk with COVID. And I think that it's also just so easy for everyone. I think we've appreciated that those videos stay online on election day, and so literally any of the judges with the cell phone can, you know, if they have a question that comes up, they can watch their training videos right there in their precinct. So everything I've heard has been favorable. I haven't heard any complaints. I of course defer to Charles and Sandra. They might receive more of that than I would.
No complaints on this end. Everything that has been heard has been favorable. And Adam is right. If they have questions on election day, they can go right to their phone and look at the video.
Excellent.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Is there a motion to approve a subscription agreement with SOE Software Corporation for software maintenance and support and for development of online video training courses for polling place judges and staff and for nursing home voting voting administrators with a one-year term beginning on January 1st, 2022, and with a full contract value of $69,043.
So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
Seconded by Commissioner Hernandez. All those in favor, please vote aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Hernandez votes aye. Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the Board of Election Commissioners 2022 regular board meeting schedule. We normally do this at the end of the prior year. Is there a motion to approve the Election Commissioners 2022 regular board meeting schedule?
So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
Seconded by Commissioner Hernandez. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Hernandez votes aye. The motion passes. Then we have the next item is oops, hold on one second. The next item is consideration and adoption of the preliminary 2022 election calendar. And on this calendar, it is there is a possibility that we may have to amend the calendar. Is that correct, Mr. Lasker?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, the board's tradition is to obtain the signature requirement calculations for the various offices up for election from the election authorities with whom those nomination papers are filed. The election authorities really have jurisdiction over those particular elected offices. Of course, we do those calculations for the years we have our municipal elections and when our ward committee persons are elected in presidential years. But for now, we take the state and federal and judicial numbers from the State Board of Elections. They just released theirs on Friday. And as of this morning, when I checked, the Cook County Clerk's Office has not yet issued its signatures calculations for the county offices. So we, at the very least, we will want to revise this calendar when the county provides its signature requirement numbers. Circulation begins on January 13th of next year. I just spoke yesterday afternoon with the legal counsel in the clerk's office. They were expecting to have their numbers published this week, so we're keeping our eyes on that. Also, there's pending litigation still that could affect the state House and state Senate redistricting maps. Who knows what might also happen with the ward redistricting maps. We're going to monitor that that litigation, and if any changes happen, I think it would be a public service for us to include a notice of that in this calendar. The dates that are in here are, and the signature requirements that we've included, do believe to be fully accurate. We're not expecting any revisions to have to take place due to any inaccuracies. We've gone through this with a fine-tooth comb and several sets of eyes. It's taken a lot more work than usual, of course, because this is a redistricting year, so we have to look to a whole different set of signature calculation laws. And then, of course, the legislature has changed a lot of things specifically for the 2022 election cycle. So a lot of dates are different than in normal years. I've been assisted substantially by Trish in that regard, Trish Sheehy, so thank you very much to her. And I do think we've got a good calendar in place here for public distribution now.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions? If not, is there a motion? Well, I will move to adopt the draft calendar as the board's 2022 election calendar for publication, subject to possible future revisions. Is there a second?
There is a second from Commissioner Cressy.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye. Commissioner
Commissioner
Hernandez
Cressy?
votes aye.
Okay, Commissioner Cressy votes aye as well.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the legal report. Mr. Lasker.
Thank you again, Madam Chair and Commissioner Cressy. As I did just mention, there are 3 federal court lawsuits that are challenging the state's actions on redistricting the state districts. So we're going to continue monitoring those to see if they end up having any impact. Meanwhile, our staff is moving forward with entering that data into our system and starting the remap process internally so that we're ready to go when the time comes, or so that they can make any necessary revisions to that if the court then orders it. Mr. Holliday mentioned that the AECOI winter conference is happening as we speak. I've also attended their executive meeting yesterday. I look forward to logging back in this afternoon. I just wanted to further mention that the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners is slated to host the next convention in spring. Every year there's a spring convention and a fall a winter convention. We're, of course, hoping to be able to be in person again, but who knows how that's going to shake out. We're currently doing these meetings remotely through video conference, not quite as fun, but still a great time to get together and discuss how things are going with all the election commissions throughout the state. Now, what I know people really want to hear is what happens with this Chicago City Council ward redistricting, remapping project. And in that regard, I just want to take a little time to explain that the laws governing the decennial redistricting of the Chicago aldermanic wards come from the Illinois Revised Cities and Villages Act of 1941. So that's what, about an 80-year-old body of laws. I want to point out that those laws were enacted before there was any such thing as early voting here. And also before the federal government passed the UOCAVA law governing overseas and military mail-in ballots. More on that later. You'll hear why I mentioned that. The way that this all works is that Revised Cities and Villages Act requires the City Council to, by ordinance, redistrict its wards in the year by no later than December 1st in the year following the federal census. When the City Council does pass an ordinance on or before December 1st, there is then a 15-day period where any group of alderpersons equaling at least 1/5 of the City Council can file their own proposed substitute ordinance, along with a petition to send both of those ordinances then to a referendum to be voted upon by the voters. That's from section 21-39. That, of course, did not happen here because this provision from section 21-39, because the City Council did not pass an ordinance by December 1st. However, moving to the next section, 21-40, when the City Council fails to timely pass an ordinance, then again, any group of 1/5 or more of the alderpersons, that's 10 or more, because we have 50 total alderpersons, any group of 10 or more can file a proposed redistricting ordinance along with a petition for referendum. That did happen on December 2nd. The Latino caucus of the City Council filed its proposed redistricting ordinance with the city clerk along with the referendum petition that's been transmitted over to our office. So we are prepared to present that question as a referendum in the June primary, should that be the end result here. But what does happen next? Well, first of all, these substitute ordinances, the statute allows for them to be filed up to 40 days before the election. So we are still within an open filing period where any other group of 10 or more alderpersons could file their own substitute ordinance. So we don't know for sure yet whether it's just going to be the one question on the ballot or additional questions. Furthermore, now that a substitute ordinance has been filed by the Latino caucus, the city council now again has an opportunity to pass its own ordinance. And it has the statutory right to do that up to 40 days before the election. So there is still the possibility remains that the city council could pass an ordinance. If the city council passes an ordinance, any of these substitute ordinances that have previously been filed, the Latino caucus included, and any others who timely file, those questions would automatically not be sent to referendum. Only the city council ordinance would go into effect. However, those groups would then still have another opportunity to refile their ordinances up until 40 days before election. So if the city council passes an ordinance, it would sort of wipe the slate clean and provide the Latino caucus with the option of either adopting the city council ordinance, because maybe there's been an agreement reached among the majority of the alderpersons, or the Latino caucus and any others could choose to file their own substitute ordinances or to refile. The 40th day before the election is May 19th. And the reason I started off by mentioning that this is an 80-year-old law that predates early voting is that now the Illinois Election Code says early voting may start as early as 40 days before the election. Federal law, UOCAVA, requires, not just an option, but requires us to start sending out mail-in ballots to overseas civilians and military personnel no later than 45 days before the election. So I would just like to very respectfully encourage the city council and its caucuses to take whatever action they're going to take as quickly as they can in this election cycle, because we don't want this to delay the start of any election. We'd like to have our ballots ready to go. But that's what's happening now. Where we're at is the Latino caucus is filed. Other caucuses still have that right. The city council might still pass an ordinance. So we don't quite know yet what things are going to look like, but we're obviously monitoring these things closely and we'll be prepared to act however it does all shake out. And unless there are any questions, that concludes my legal report. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? If not,
Okay, again, I'm sure, Adam, you've also notified as just saying that to the people here, the logistics of this, the printing of ballots, not knowing until the middle of May, you know, are we going to have extra pages, especially for mail-in ballots, you know, to mail those out. So we're going to be in quite a little crunch come May, potentially, unless something can be resolved before then.
Commissioner, what I could say in response to that is that I'm glad to report that both the City Council and the Latino Caucus have retained outside legal counsel, attorneys who are familiar to this board, having handled numerous electoral board challenges in front of the electoral board here. They've done election recounts. They understand our election administration burdens and they respect them. And so they have been working with their respective clients to do things as timely as possible. And I expect that they'll continue to encourage their clients. They're well aware of these challenges and they want this handled as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
And the only thing I could say is that, you know, we should always plan for the worst case scenario and make sure we have, you know, in the event that, you know, we won't have a timely response, be prepared for whatever it is. Things as simple as, you know, sufficient paper, you know, to send out notices, postage, reserves, whatever it is, let's just have everything there. So we will be prepared in whatever we need to do.
I completely agree, Madam Chair. I think this is going to feel a lot like us. It's going to feel a lot like an electoral board case that's taken a while to get through circuit court, appellate court, Supreme Court. You know, we've been there many times over, waiting and waiting for a final result to prepare our ballots. This will feel similar to that, except that it's pretty much out of our hands. You know, all we can do is encourage the city council to act.
Adam, quick question. If it does go to referendum or referenda, how much, I mean, it's a practical, how much paper will it need? Do we have to print out the entire proposal or just like 4 lines?
So it's a good question, but the statute does expressly answer that. There's a form of the question set forth in the statute, and it's actually quite simple. It lists the names of the alderpersons who have, I think it qualifies as one referendum with which you have several options. You get to vote for one out of the several options. And the options are simply listed as, do you want to support the ordinance that was passed by this list of alderpersons? So we don't list any of the details as to what the legal descriptions, which obviously that would be, well,
Yeah.
Here's my copy of the one that we've received, right? So that's a lot of paper.
So it's not like a state constitutional amendment where they
It's
print out
much
the whole
simpler
thing.
than that. We would
Good.
hopefully we will have empty space on the existing ballots. At the very most, it would push us onto one extra sheet.
Okay.
And
Thank you,
Commissioner Cressy, I can send you what the question looked like in '92 with the 2 groups on the ballot to show you the form how it was laid out. Didn't take up a lot of space.
Great. I'd appreciate that. Thank you, Charles.
Okay. Thank you. Is that it for your report, Mr. Lasker?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Well, we'll go on with the agenda today. We have no financial report. Trish, do we have any public comment?
No, we do not have any requests for public comment.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Lasker, do we have a need for executive session?
Thank you.
No. Okay, thank you. So if that is the case, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting. I believe that would be December 28th, 2021. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved by Commissioner Cressy with wishes of Merry Christmas to everyone here.
And I will second. Everyone, happy holidays. I hope everything goes well and we're with our loved ones, and because that's the most important thing. So thank you, everyone. Have a great holiday, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.